The last time Mrs. Borden was seen alive was at 9 a.m. by her stepdaughter, the infamous Lizzie Borden, and their maid, Bridget. At the time of Mrs. Borden's murder, Lizzie's sister Emma was out of town, Mr. Borden was at Falls River, as well as Uncle John. Lizzie had said that she was downstairs ironing handkerchiefs. In the room where Mrs. Borden was murdered, her Uncle John had stayed there the night before, and it is now one of the most requested rooms for overnight stays at the historic Lizzie Borden Axe Murder House and Museum, the John Morse Room, or better known as the Murder Room. There were no signs of a struggle, and no defensive wounds on Mrs. Borden. Peculiar, isn't it? The evidence was unclear if she were facing her attacker and wouldn't or couldn't fight back, if she were standing or kneeling, but what we can tell you of where the wounds were. One blow was on the left side of her head, right above her ear. Another blow was in between her shoulder blades, and they were about 4 inches deep. And the other 17 blows were at the back of the head and neck, for a grand total of 19 blows altogether. She was eventually found in a pool of her own coagulated blood, and between the blood and stomach contents of both victims, we can pinpoint her death around 9:30 a.m., a full hour and a half prior to Mr. Borden's murder. Now, if you look to the picture on the wall in the dining room where the autopsy was done, you can clearly see Mrs. Borden lying flat on her back, and where her head is a pool of blood. Now, if you look to the mirror in that picture, you can clearly see the camera that was used to take the picture. Did you know that the Borden crime scene photos were the very first crime scene photos ever taken in the United States? How's that for a morbid fun fact?